Welcome back to the Stretch the Floor podcast. I'm Matt, and I'm here with Venush, and we are officially 1 week away from the start of the 2020, really 2021 NBA season, and it's starting 3 days before Christmas. There are only 72 games. There are no fans. The Raptors are playing in Tampa Bay, but it's the NBA. And since it's a week away, I think that means it's time for a full season preview. A lot of teams look really different. A lot of players are coming off really bad injuries. There's a lot of players with something to prove, a lot of teams with something to prove. And so I think it's a better time than ever to get into a full season preview, kind of break down who are the teams that we're low on, who the teams that we're high on. And I think we should just get right into it. Let's start with the East. Who do you have as the worst team in the Eastern Conference this season?
So my 15 is the Knicks. My
Same.
14 is Cleveland, and my 13 is Pistons.
Okay, so I think it's pretty obvious that the Knicks are the worst team in the East, at least this year.
Yeah.
I have the Pistons at 14, and I actually have the Chicago Bulls at 13.
Okay. So
Okay,
I have the Bulls at 12, assuming
okay,
you have the Cavs at 12.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have the same bottom four teams. We'll start with the Knicks.
Yep.
Hopefully they play Obi Toppin a lot. We know Tom Thibodeau doesn't play rookies, but this is the worst team in the East. Potentially the second worst team in the league or the worst team in the league. So hopefully Obi gets a lot of time. Hopefully Mitchell Robinson gets a lot of time. Hopefully RJ gets all the time and all the shots. Hopefully even prospects who didn't pan out, like Frank Ntilikina and Kevin Knox, get time. And they just get another high pick and get into that really stacked draft class and see how it works out. Because unless RJ really elevates himself, they really don't have a franchise cornerstone. So they're really looking into the draft as to change their franchise's direction.
Yeah. I'm not I'm assuming Obi Toppin's going to start at the backup four.
So he's not starting if he's the backup four.
Sorry, he's
Yeah,
going to start the season as the backup four.
yeah.
So I'm not 100% sure what their starting lineup is going to look like on day one, but I think their top 5 players are Peyton, RJ, Obi Toppin, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah.
And so just to go through quickly, Peyton shot 20% from 3 last year. Barrett shot 32. Obi Toppin shot 39% in college on only 2.6 attempts. So that's whatever. Julius Randle shot 28%, and Mitchell Robinson shot 0% from 3.
Yeah.
Is this the worst spacing in NBA history? This is maybe not NBA history, but in the league, maybe, right?
Yeah, this is why a lot of people should praise RJ Barrett, because he's not the greatest shooter, but he has no spacing around him, and he was still able to average 15 points.
Yeah.
So if that shooting does improve a little bit and spacing improves a little bit somehow, like he could have a real good sophomore season and actually prove to be a cornerstone. So yeah, I'm high on RJ Barrett, and I'm high on the young players they have. Like I'm high on Mitchell Robinson too. So yeah, I think it's a good rebuild. You have 2 good players, high draft pick, keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting RJ to make a second year jump, like you said, with that level of spacing. I don't know if
It's
anyone,
hard.
especially a second year player, is gonna put up a really efficient season. But I am expecting him to make a second year jump, and I think Julius Randle needs to be traded ASAP.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he's as a fan, I would definitely want Obi Toppin to play more minutes than Julius Randle, but it's not going to happen because they're going to be shopping him for trades. So hopefully that happens at some point. But yeah, like you said, if this weren't the Knicks, if this were some other team that's not constantly at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, we'd be saying really good rebuild, just tank. But because it's the Knicks and they've been there forever, it just looks a little bit worse. But yeah.
Yeah, it's because they're one of the biggest markets, and you just don't expect a team that's this big of a market to be stuck in a rebuild for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But they're doing the right choices. Like they're moving into the right path, right direction, and I think being last in the East is all right for them this season.
Yeah, one thing, would you, if you were them, would you try to acquire a point guard at some point this season, or would you just wait for the draft?
I'll just wait for the draft and next off season. I'll just tank this year.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so you had the Cavs at 14?
Yeah, I have the Cavs at 14.
Okay, I'm a little higher on the Cavs than you are. So why do you have them so low?
I just don't think their players are going to play with them for the whole season. Like you probably have them at 12 because you think Kevin Love's going to be there the whole season. You think Andre Drummond's going to be there the whole season.
Yeah,
I just can't see that happening. I think Andre Drummond will get moved 100%. I think Kevin Love will get moved 100%. Not 100%, but pretty high percentages. And I just think they're going to let their young guys have all the shots, all the opportunity, which you're supposed to do in a rebuild. So, yeah, I'm happy with them being at 14 too. They're going to have a 20-point scorer in Sexton. Garland's going to have some minutes and some playmaking increases and jumps in the sophomore year. Isaac Gross kind of locks down some people in his rookie year. And this is the correct thing for them to do. Get their young
Larry
guys
Nance.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Larry Nance going to get some actual center minutes,
Hmm.
grab some rebounds, be show potential to be like a Draymond Green. And yeah, this is a great rebuild for them. Great start. Get another high pick and keep it moving.
Yeah, like you said, it comes down to trades. Andre Drummond and Kevin Love are not superstars, but they're good players.
Yeah,
And if they're actually on the roster the whole year, they're definitely going to be higher than 14. But like you said, they're probably both, at least Drummond is getting traded
yeah,
almost
100%.
100% this
Yeah,
season. And yeah, so I definitely, I think we both agree. Just looking at the roster right now, I like it better than some of the teams that had them over. But yeah,
yeah.
Sexton is going to have a big year, like we said before. And Garland, like you said, he's going to be asked to be more of a playmaker this year. So what happens though if Garland doesn't make a huge improvement and doesn't show that he can be like a primary playmaker? Do they move on?
No, I think they give him. It depends who they get in the draft. Obviously,
Yeah,
if they get another point guard, then they'll probably move on. But if they get a small forward or a power forward, they'll probably keep him. And I think you have to give him 3-4 years because as an undersized guard, you have to get your
yeah, that's
shot
fair.
under you. You have to get spacing around you.
He didn't
And
even play in
like,
college, so
yeah, he didn't play in college. He's still really young.
hmm
And like he has everything in the making, he's not someone like a Frank who
yeah,
really hasn't shown like NBA talent besides on the defensive end. Like we've seen his shot, we've seen his playmaking. We know he has potential to be a good NBA player. He just might not be a star. He might just be a DJ Augustine who comes off your bench, solid role player.
yeah. Okay, so
I had
I had
Pistons at
I had the
13.
Pistons. I had the at 14. Okay, so the Pistons. I mean, it really comes down to Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose
Yeah,
and both their status as to being on the roster and
yeah,
their health. Blake Griffin is apparently healthy.
yeah,
Who knows if that's true? If he is healthy, he's good for like 25 and 5 or
yeah.
or better. And so obviously, like similar to the Cavs, it all comes down to trades. But so are you thinking that he's gonna get traded or is he
The
gonna
thing
be on
is,
the
I can see Derrick Rose getting traded, but I kind of
yeah.
see them keeping Blake Griffin
Hmm.
just because both Derrick Rose and Blake Griffin are such good role models you run around your team. Like they're both past their prime, like Kevin Love and Andre Drummond can still contribute to championship level teams. It's going to be hard to get Blake Griffin on a championship level team, so they might just keep him
Yeah.
and they might just like let them develop and help their young talent. Like Derrick Rose can have such a positive impact next to Killian Hayes. And I'm just so high on Killian Hayes that I think he's such a good prospect that I think he's a better prospect than anyone Cleveland or the Knicks has. And I think he's going to show out. I said he was going to be third in Rookie of the Year. And I think he's going to be able to pull them to 13 alongside the help of Grant as well. I think Grant's going to take a huge leap this year when he
Yeah.
has all that ability.
Yeah.
We've seen him doing well in the playoffs. So I think they just have enough where they'll be a competitive 13.
Yeah.
But they still going to get a high pick to pair with Killian Hayes, Grant, and all the other rookies and young sophomores they have.
Yeah. See, I think Blake is staying there, but I'm not sold on his health at all.
Yeah,
Obviously, I hope he's healthy the whole year. I think Rose is getting traded 100%,
yeah.
and when he does, I think they have the I think they have the worst starting backcourt in the NBA with Killian Hayes and DeLon Wright. That's rough.
But but to be fair, Delon Ray could just play defense, and Killian Hayes just gets
Yeah,
all that opportunity to
but I don't
grow,
think
grow,
anyone thinks
grow.
Killian Hayes is going to be anywhere near his potential in year one, which is like
But
obviously fair to
yeah,
expect. But the Pistons are in a weird situation because they have some really good win now veterans on their team and some huge projects on their team.
yeah. But the thing is, they could get some nice young players in that with those players,
Yeah, yeah,
and they could still be competitive. So I think they'll be better than Cleveland and Knicks. they're still going to be near the bottom. Like these teams are going to be separated by 1, 2 wins. So yeah, I don't think it's that big of a difference.
Okay. Okay, so we have not talked about the Bulls yet.
Yeah.
I'm not very high on the Bulls. I think there's a huge lack of playmaking on their roster. I don't really see one playmaker, true playmaker in their roster, except like Satoransky maybe. And they drafted Patrick Williams 4th overall, but in my opinion, he has to be a power forward, and there's just no way for him to play
Yeah.
to even in the next 3-4 years to play power forward for them, which is
Yeah.
kind of I think Zach LaVine is. I don't know if he's going to get traded, but I think that would be a smart move to trade him
Whoa.
at some point this season. Well, depending on how the season goes. And I like a lot of the players on the roster. Like I like Zach LaVine, I like Kobe White, I like Markkinen, I like Wendell Carter. But the roster just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Like I said, they don't have a ton of playmaking, and I
Yeah.
don't really see them winning a ton of games this year.
Yeah. I just think with a fully healthy Otto Porter, you still have Zach LaVine from last year. You have
Yeah.
Lowry Markkinen who's going to bounce back because Jim Boylan's not his coach anymore.
Okay.
If you have a full season of Wendell Carter, if Kobe White makes a little bit of a jump, and then you have Thomas Satoransky, Thaddeus Young off your bench, like I could see that team being competitive against any team in the league. Like I don't think they can win.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think they might. That's why they're at 12th. But I think they can have nice games, and I think Zach LaVine is so good that he can just keep you in any game. And like he scored 25.
He
So like
did. He did.
if he makes a little bit of a jump, like he's a 27-point scorer, 26-point scorer, like he could keep you in any games if you have a scorer that good.
Yeah.
But I obviously have him 12th because he's not a James Harden, he's not a Steph Curry. So yeah, they're gonna be bad, but I think Zach LaVine is just too good that he's gonna keep them close.
I think you're a little higher on Zach LaVine than me. Like, obviously, he is really good. I don't know if he's definitely not going to make an All Star team this year because his team isn't going to be good enough.
Yeah.
And I think just someone on that team needs to score, and I think he kind of just benefits from being by far the best player on the team. He is good. I just think he
Yeah.
gets I don't think he's a 26-point scorer. I don't think he's a 25-point scorer on any other team really than the Bulls. But I could be wrong.
At the end of the day, 25 is 25. No
Yeah,
matter the
yeah,
circumstances.
that's
He
true.
could do it. He should be able to do it again. And he's gonna willpower his team to the 12th. And I
That's
think
true.
Otto Porter Jr. is pretty underrated too. I think he'll be pretty good defensively when he's
Yeah.
back healthy.
I just think I like Kobe White, but I don't think I don't think anyone thinks Kobe White can be the starting point guard on a really good team. He's kind of a shooting guard trapped inside a
Yeah,
point
yeah,
guard's body, and is probably going to be best as a 6 man,
yeah.
like a Lou Williams type for his career. And I just don't really see a point guard on the team, and you can't really win without a point guard in this league.
Yeah, I also think Billy Donovan's coaching is gonna help him a lot too, though, because they're around this spot with Jim Boylan, the worst coach in the league by far. Probably not even like an NBA caliber coach. Like it was a big difference between him and
Yeah,
like anyone else in the league. So I think having a competent coach in Billy Donovan, even if you don't think he's good, even if you think he's league average, it's such a huge improvement that I think the Bulls are just going to improve, and I think that like all their players' stock are going to rise so much
that's
because
fair.
of Jim Boylan leaving.
That's fair. Like honestly, the perception of players and the perception of teams can change so much just
With a
with the
coach.
coach.
Yeah,
And you could be right. That could definitely happen this year.
yeah,
Okay, so that was the bottom four. So
yeah.
what do you want? Do you want to do
9, 10,
up to
11.
9? 9, 10,
Yeah.
11. Okay. So who do you got? 9, 10, 11.
So at 11, I have the Hornets. At 10, I have the Magic. And at 9, I have the Hawks.
Okay. I got Hawks 9 as well, but then I have Hornets Magic flipped.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the Magic, I think Jonathan Isaac is out for the year, and that
Yeah.
really hurts them. We have talked about Aaron Gordon having a breakout this year because he's finally at the 4,
Yeah.
which I think is likely, but they're going to need it to happen. I think Vucevic is still a star in the regular season. He's good for 23, 24 a night,
22. Yeah.
22 a night. Mo Bamba's a question mark, though. He's going to be
Mm-hmm.
playing real minutes this year. What is he going to give you? And I also think there are going to be trades happening with this team. I think Vucevic could be traded. I think Fournier is going to be traded. I think
Yeah.
Terrence Ross could be traded. So I just see this roster looking different down the road. And I think Jonathan Isaac was such a huge part of that team, such a huge part of that defense, especially that they're going to suffer a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I also have them missing the playoffs. They were
Yeah,
eighth last year. I think they're going to slide down to 10, but they still have a competent player in every position.
that's true.
Michael Phelps is a competent league average point guard with potential to be even better if he makes a jump. They can actually make the playoffs. Evan Fournier is a decent shooting guard. Terrence Ross is a decent small forward. Aaron Gordon has potential to break out and be
Yeah.
really good at power forward, but right now he's a decent power forward. And then you have a borderline all star at center in Vucevic.
Yeah.
And I think that's good enough to get you 10th this year in the East. Usually that'll get you like 8th, maybe ninth, but the East improved, and I think they'll be able to get 10th because I think Vucevic is just that good.
Yeah, I think, I mean, with these teams that we talked about so far, trades are such a huge factor with them.
Yeah,
And I do think there are going to be multiple trades with this team. I think multiple trades need to happen. So I don't really see them pushing for the playoffs. If they really wanted to push it, I think they could probably get ahead of the Hornets.
yeah,
Just keeping Vucevic, keeping all those guys that I mentioned, but I think they're going to be traded. That's why I have them a little bit lower.
yeah. And then for the Hornets, we could just jump into them right away.
Yeah,
The reason I have them so low is because they don't have a center.
yeah,
Cody Zeller is their
they don't.
center.
They
They're
don't.
gonna get no rebounds. Like I expect LaMelo Ball to be like fourth in rebounding for them, and they have a good lineup in Graham, Ball, Hayward, PJ Washington, Cody Zeller, and then they have off the bench they have Bridges, Terry Rozier. Like they have a decent roster. It's just no
Hmm.
center. And I think
Yeah,
when you're lacking so much at a position, like it's just gonna hurt you so much. Like everyone's gonna play so well, but you're gonna give up so much offensive rebounds. You're gonna like give up so much second possessions.
yeah.
It's just gonna be tough for them, and that's gonna bring them down to like the 11th spot.
That they definitely do not have a center.
Yeah,
Andre Drummond is a name that has come up with them
yeah,
which is I think probably the likeliest trade destination for him, but you can't really guarantee that.
yeah,
To me, it comes down to I think they have two 20-point scorers this year. I think Gordon Hayward's going to score 20, and I
yeah,
think Graham's going to score 20. And a team that has two 20-point scorers, to me, I don't know. I just feel like they're going to be not quite in the playoffs this year, but I think they're going to be fun,
yeah,
a fun offensive team right away, and not a terrible defensive team. And I think they're going to be fun to watch.
yeah. And 10 is probably gonna be that play-in position,
Yeah,
9 and 10. So this Hornets Magic are definitely gonna be pushing in the regular season to get that 10.
yeah, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see them. You have the Hornets getting that last playing position. I have the Magic, and
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be interesting because you kind of agree with me. If Fournier does stay the whole season, then I think you would agree that Magic would probably get that
Yeah,
10 spot
I think so.
because
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
think Fournier is going to stay there. He's going to
yeah.
demand a trade. He kind of has been vocally demanding a trade.
Mm,
So if he gets moved, I see them slipping and the Hornets getting that 10 spot. But
exactly. Yeah,
if he stays, then I see the Magic getting the 10 spot.
yeah. And I mean, they don't have a starting. The Hornets don't have a starting caliber big man right now.
Yeah,
But I mean, maybe you get 1 year of Andre Drummond, and then
you make
Vernon
that
Carey
10.
Jr. comes
Yeah,
in and is the best center in the East.
best center of the East
Anyway,
destroys
yeah,
both 1-on-1.
steal of the draft.
Yeah,
Okay, so and then we both have the Hawks at 9.
yeah,
I think the Hawks. I think everyone thinks the Hawks are going to be. Everyone said the Hawks were just penciling them in for the playoffs this year, and I don't think they're quite going to make it. Although I think they're a playoff caliber team, an East
mhm,
playoff caliber team. I just look at the teams ahead of them, like some teams we're going to get into in a minute, and I just don't think they quite have enough to make the playoffs this year. I think Trae Young is going to have a huge improvement. I think Trae Young is he an All NBA lock this year? Maybe not a lock, but he's
if he doesn't make the playoffs, it's going to be hard.
that's true. And you just look at their 9-man rotation: Trae Young, Bogdanovich, Hunter, John Collins, Capella, Rondo, Gallo, Reddish, and Herter. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a pretty fun, at least offensive
yeah,
9-man rotation. I can't really think of too many more exciting 9-man rotations than that. They got secondary ball handlers, they got pick and roll weapons, they got spacing. They kind of have everything you need. They are just kind of a new team, not a ton of experience together. And Trae Young still, it's only going to be his third year
yeah,
after all. Even though we can kind of pencil him in for 29 a night, it's
yeah,
only his third year. And I just think they're going to just barely miss out this year, but they'll be in it every year after this.
yeah. And the reason I have him kind of like I have other teams ahead of them is because the players are more established.
Yeah.
Like we don't know how these teams are gonna like gel together.
Yeah.
We don't know if John Collins could keep averaging 20 and 10.
Yeah.
We don't know if Cam Reddish is going to play like the second half of the season or he's going to play like the first half. We don't know about the shooting of DeAndre Hunter, if it's consistent or not. There's just so much questions around this team that I'm more comfortable putting other teams ahead of them. But the Hawks have so much talent on their team that they could definitely make the playoffs.
Yeah, like teams like the Pacers that have been playing together for so long with more established players, like the
Yeah,
Raptors. Some I can see some people putting the Hawks ahead of the teams like that, but like you
yeah, I
said,
just can't.
this is a young team, not a ton of established players. Like even last year was kind of the first year in a long time that Gallinari, or maybe the last 2 years that Gallinari actually played the whole year and didn't get
Yeah,
hurt. You can't just pencil him in to play 72 games this year. Like you
yeah,
said, Cam Reddish was awesome in the second half of the season. He was terrible in the
yeah,
first half.
yeah,
Like you said, John Collins. I think John Collins, by the stats, was the worst defensive power forward in
yeah,
basketball last year, and Trae
yeah,
Young is just the worst defensive player in NBA history.
yeah,
So they're definitely an extremely talented team. But like you said, are they going to be good enough to get into the playoffs? Possibly, but we'll see.
yeah. And which Clint Capella are we getting? Are we getting the
Yeah,
guy who averaged 16 and 13? Or are we getting a guy who's coming off a big injury that can't jump the same, can't
yeah,
really move the same, and is only averaging like 8 and 8?
yeah.
Like there's just too much questions for me to put this team in the playoffs. But they have the talent to make it. I don't think anyone's debating
No,
that. And even if they miss the playoffs, like they're such a good position where they could trade star players, like such players with high potential to get a star. So yeah, I just think it's a good spot. Get that play in, be competitive,
yeah,
get the trade value up for some of your players, and then next season, next off season, go for a star, go for trades, and keep moving.
exactly. Could not agree more. So a team that I would have had the Hawks over, or we I guess we'll do what do you want to do? 8, 7,
6.
6 now? Okay, so
Yeah,
my 8 is the Wizards, my 7 is the Pacers, and my 6 is the Raptors.
yeah, it's identical.
Yeah, so the Wizards are a team that I would have had the Hawks over a week ago,
Yeah,
but with the recent acquisition of Russell Westbrook, looking at a backcourt of Russell Westbrook and Bradley
Bradley
Beal,
Beal.
that's good for almost 60 points a night.
Yeah,
I just can't have them missing the playoffs. I think
yeah,
Russ Beal is one of the best backcourts, one of the best duos in the league. Their offense is going to be amazing. I don't know,
amazing.
not sold on their defense really. I'm not sold on their bench, but they're going to be a tough out every night, any team that they go against, and they're going to be one of the best offensive teams in the East, or one of the most exciting offensive teams in the East, at least.
Yeah, they're going to be one of the hardest 8 seeds to beat
Yeah,
in the Eastern Conference in like the last 10 years. Like this team is going to have so much offensive firepower. Like you have Westbrook, Beal, and then you have Bertines. Thomas Bryant's a pretty good floor spacing five.
yeah,
Rui Hachimura is going to take a leap. Denny Avdija is a decent NBA player in our opinion. And like when you put all that together, like they're going to be a good 8 seed. They could even push higher. We're just so not sold on their defense that we have them at 8
yeah.
because they were the worst team defensively last year, and they added Westbrook. Like he's not a great defender, and he's not really going to be like a Rudy Gobert who changes your franchises.
Not quite. No.
Yeah, so it's still going to be a bad defense, but it's
Yeah,
going to be fun games. We're just going to have some of the
definitely fun
funnest
games.
games. They're going
Yeah.
to have 140. Them versus the Mavs, it's going to be like a 160 to 150 type game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we talked about this a little bit, but you actually think Bradley Beal is going to have a better year this year than he did last year?
yeah. I think his efficiency increase with the
Yeah.
same points outbreak, and I think Westbrook is underrated in the regular season. Paul George was top 3 in MVP voting. James Harden averaged 34. Kevin
Hmm.
Durant won an MVP with him. A lot of players have high success with him. I think Bradley Beal will be the next player up. I think he'll make an All-Star game. I think he'll have really good efficiency numbers and really high points, and he'll be on the line for All NBA.
I think so too. And like you said, Russell Westbrook is actually underrated in the regular season because
Yeah,
we've seen what he does at end of games in the playoffs for the
yeah,
last few years, and we've just kind of written him off as a player, saying that his 30, 10, and 10 every night doesn't mean anything.
yeah,
But I'm not quite 30, but him putting up triple double every night and just keeping your team in the game every single night cannot be overlooked in the regular season. Putting him with Bradley Beal, putting actual floor spacers and weapons around them, that's going to be a really, really good offensive team, like we said.
yeah.
Okay, so we both have the Pacers at
at
7.
7. Yeah,
What are your thoughts on the Pacers?
health. Like
Yeah,
that's the first question. Is Victor
yeah.
Oladipo returning to who he was? How is Sabonis? Is he back to 100%? Is Brogdon going to play only half the games, or is he going
Hmm.
to play a full season? Was Bobo TJ Warren a thing, or is he just
Yep.
going to be back to normal TJ Warren? How's Miles Turner's ego going to be affected?
Hmm.
Trade rumors being constantly offered in trades. How's the chemistry of the team? How's the new coach going to play? So there's a lot of questions with this team, but they're so talented. Like they got top fours last time, and even with all these questions about health and all their play styles, they're
Hmm.
still a top 7 team. They're still a playoff team. Like all the questions doesn't matter. Like they're so good that they're gonna make the playoffs. It's just it just sucks that these questions exist because if they had better chemistry and if they were fully healthy, we could be
Yeah.
talking about like a 4 seed. But since these health questions are real things, and since the chemistry issues with the constant trade rumors are real things, we could see them sliding to 7. But they're still a playoff lock, in my opinion, unless 2, 3 big injuries happen.
100%. And them sliding from 4 to 7 is less about their team than it is about teams like the Nets and a couple other teams making improvements, in
Yeah,
my opinion. But like you said, Oladipo's health is, other than Kevin Durant, maybe the biggest question mark
this
in
season.
basketball this
Yeah,
season. Obviously, if he's Oladipo from his breakout season, could be a 4 seed, like you said.
yeah,
But also, you can't just assume Sabonis is going to be 100%. You
yeah,
can't. Brogdon has never been the most durable guy in the world, and the Turner Sabonis center power forward thing is somehow still a thing that we all talk about. I don't know how
yeah,
Turner hasn't been moved yet. I don't know how he didn't get moved this offseason.
yeah,
I think I think it's fair to expect that Sabonis will make another leap from being, because he was named an All Star this
yeah,
past season. I
yeah,
think it's fair to expect him to make another leap, but that's not going to happen until he's playing the 5 full time, in my opinion.
yeah,
And I think that has to happen this year. There are a bunch of teams out there that would love to have a guy like Miles Turner, and I think that even if I don't even know if it would hurt their playoff chances if they moved Miles Turner and just played Sabonis full time at the 5. I'm not really sure if it would.
yeah. It's just Miles Turner's a good defender,
Oh, he's an amazing defender. Yeah.
so it'll be tough. Depends who they get back, right? Like if they get someone who's not a good defender, like their defense becomes kind of iffy. But yeah, it always depends who they get back. Like if they get picks back or if they get actual solid player back.
Yeah, of course. But Sabonis, like we all know, he's at his best when he's at the 5, and I really want to see a full season of him at the 5, and I think
Yeah,
everyone does. But
yeah,
yeah, Pacers playoff lock, assuming health, could even go higher. Like we're both Raptors fans, but I could be talked into the Pacers being ahead of the Raptors this year.
yeah,
But okay, so let's talk about the Raptors. We both have them at 6. I'm kind of surprised we agree on them, even though we're both
yeah,
Raptors fans. Feels
yeah.
like I'm usually a little higher on them than you.
Hmm.
So, okay, so why do you have the Raptors falling from the 2nd seed to the 6th seed this year?
Yeah, it's the biggest fall in like all of our playoff predictions essentially. And the reason for that is health. Like Kyle Lowry's he's an old guy. Like people don't underestimate like people like don't recognize that he how old he is. Fred Van Vliet was pretty banged up last season. Norman Powell was pretty banged up last season. So that's 3 of your top 4 scorers who had injury issues last season. And then you lose a Serge Ibaka, you lose a Marcus Hall. Like if you get the same injury bug of last year, a 6 seed is realistic. And the only that's why I have them at 6 because I think you have to assume similar injuries happen because it's been happening their whole careers. These players have been repeatedly injured, and I think that 6 seed, if they're injured, 6 seed, and if they're fully healthy though for the whole 72 games, we could be talking about a 2 seeded Raptors again. It's just injuries. You have to factor them in. We factor them with the other teams. It would be
Yeah,
unfair if we didn't for the Raptors.
yeah. We definitely you cannot assume no injuries, and I think the loss of Gasol and Ibaka is huge, but
Hmm.
not just simply on paper. It's huge because, like you said, Raptors are constantly going down with injuries. There's all like I can probably count on one hand the number of times last regular season that they played with their full lineup.
Yeah,
And let's say Aaron Baines goes down. Am I comfortable with Alex Len just starting 6 straight games
Yeah.
six or eight straight games at center. No, I'm not. Like I like Alex Len could come in for 10, 15 minutes a game, give you something good. Same with Boucher. But am I comfortable with them playing real minutes and relying on them for real production? Probably not. I think assuming health, like you said, I think they can be almost the exact same team this year than they were last year. I think getting into the playoffs, not having Gasol and Ibaka is probably a little bit of a different story. But at least in the regular season, I think they can probably be as high as a 2 seed. And I think that Siakam has caught a lot of hate, especially from us, and
Yeah.
his struggles in the bubble were real. But I think they're getting a little bit overrated now, just a little bit. That was such a weird
Mhm.
situation for everyone,
Yeah.
like we've talked about.
Yeah.
He didn't have access to a basketball court for 3 months somehow,
Yeah.
apparently, over quarantine. The mental health aspect of it, just not being able to get those reps in, was obviously hard for everyone. And I'm expecting him to have a bounce back year. I'm expecting him to be as good as last year, if not better, at least in the regular season. And he's been really, in his interview so far, he's been really open about, he's admitted that he was terrible and that
Mhm.
he knows what he needs to do. He's been working with Rico Hines again, like he does every summer, and I'm expecting him to have a really big year.
Yeah, and Aaron Baines, someone we usually don't mention, because like you just expect him to do his job. If he misses time, which he did miss a lot of time last season,
Yeah,
we're talking about Chris Boucher starting or Alex Len
exactly.
starting.
Yeah.
And if one of those guys starts, our bench is gonna get even worse. So like it's tough. It's tough. Like this Raptors team, fully healthy, they could beat anyone in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple injuries, and it's gonna be tough for them to be competitive and really
Yeah.
be up to the standard they were for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And man, for me, just Kyle Lowry's age, like
Mm-hmm.
when you're an older point guard, I'm gonna not rate your team as high. And like Kyle Lowry, like even though he's one of my favorite players of all times, he is 35. He's gonna get he's gonna get banged up this season the way he plays. And if he gets hurt and we have to move Fred VanVleet to the one and Norman Powell into the two,
Mm-hmm.
we just have no bench. And it'll be tough. It'll be tough to really win games like that when you have no bench. And it's gonna be they have a really good coach though. So even at the 6 seed, still being one of the hardest teams to take out in the playoffs and still being maybe even a
Yeah.
second round team. Just because they have a low seed doesn't mean I'm thinking they're a first round exit.
No, for sure. And the Raptors had an amazing record last year, but the way they won those games compared to Milwaukee probably couldn't have been more different.
Yeah.
34-year-old Kyle Lowry was playing like 42 minutes a game.
Yeah.
I for a long part of the season, him and Fred VanVleet were averaging the most minutes in the league.
Yeah.
I don't think that can happen again with almost 35-year-old Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
I don't think that can happen. Like you said, VanVleet was banged up. They don't have a ton of depth, like
This
at
year.
that position this year, just in general this year. So
Hmm.
injuries are definitely going to be a huge factor. I think OG Anunoby and Chris Boucher could, like, they're both going to be in roles that they've never really had before.
Hmm.
OG's not going to be the second option. He's probably not even going to be the third option.
Probably
That
the
probably
fourth.
goes probably fourth, but that's still a bigger offensive role than he's ever had. So I'm
Yeah.
interested to see if he can level up and that can kind of raise the ceiling of this team. And also Boucher. Boucher, when he comes in for 20 minutes and plays garbage time, he's looked awesome. But can he actually play 20 minutes, 20, 25 minutes a night against good teams and give you real production? I'm not sure if that can happen. Maybe this team is deeper than we thought.
Yeah. Yeah. The Raptors always surprise people. We had them at a high. We had them at like 4 last season. They
Mm-hmm.
went to 2.
Yeah.
Some analysts had them at not even making the playoffs.
Yeah. No.
They're the second seed. So we
No.
hope we're wrong. We hope they stay healthy. We
Yeah.
hope they get the second seed. This is kind of a pessimistic opinion. Like
Mm-hmm.
worst case scenario, they get the sixth seed. So yeah, the Raptors are going to be a playoff team. They're going to be a hard out. I could see them winning one, maybe 2 series, and they're going to be a really competitive team. And if they get Giannis, they're contenders.
What if they get James Harden though?
Oof, that'll be interesting too.
Yeah. Okay, so that was our okay. So now we're to the top five. Do you want to just go top five or
We'll
five
just
four?
we'll just do 5-4.
Okay.
So
So okay, you go. Yeah.
at 5 I have the Sixers, and at 4 I have the Celtics.
Whoa. Okay, I knew this was gonna happen because I have two completely different teams. I have the Nets at 5 and the Heat at 4.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Okay.
we'll just do all the top 5 then.
Okay. Let's just do the top five. Okay. So my
Yeah.
top five is Nets 5, Heat 4, Sixers 3, Celtics 2, Bucks 1.
I have Bucks 1, Nets 2, Heat 3, Celtics 4, Sixers 5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
We both have the Bucks one,
Yeah, let's talk
right?
about the Bucks.
So Bucks. I mean, it's easy with the Bucks. They're always going to be the best team in the East in the regular season. Uh, the East is tougher this year, so
Yeah.
I think Bud's going to have to play his starters more minutes. So maybe Giannis will have an even better year than he did last year. I think the only questions with the Bucks are the moves that they need to make for the playoffs. And I think Evan Fournier is a guy that they could get. Like we mentioned, he was probably getting traded this year. Possibly Terry Rozier, possibly Derrick Rose. They were rumored for DeMar DeRozan. I don't know if that's going to happen. I
Mm-hmm.
just think they need another guard. Bogdanovich would have been perfect. Drew Holiday's really good, but not enough. But those are the only questions, only playoff questions. I think regular season lock for one seed.
Yeah. Giannis is probably the best regular season player in the league.
Yeah.
LeBron James is the best player in the league. But Giannis regular season, like, there's a reason he's a two-time MVP, defensive player of the year. Like, he's unstoppable in the regular season. Like,
Yep.
people don't build a wall on him because it takes too much energy, too much foul trouble and stuff like that. So yeah, like, they're gonna dominate in the regular season. They're gonna win every game.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing much really to say. It's just playoff questions.
Yeah.
Can they do it?
Exactly. Okay, so I'm assuming you have the Celtics lower because of their injuries.
Yeah, I have Celtics 4. You have Celtics 2.
Yeah.
I just don't know how. No Kemba Walker, no Gordon
Yeah.
Hayward. Like, who's their starting lineup? Like, can you even name the starting lineup right now? Oh, and Tristan Thompson's out with a hamstring injury as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. See,
So
that's the thing. So, like, without injuries, this is the 2 seed. Do you agree? Or the thing is, these injuries are
uh,
not extremely long term.
you
I
say that, but Kemba Walker does. He is a small guy, and he
I
has
that no,
been
that is definitely true. I think Kemba is definitely the longest injury on this team. I don't think Thompson is supposed to miss that much time. He's just missing. They've said
preseason.
he's missing preseason. He's probably going to miss the opener, but past
Yeah,
that, we're not really sure. I mean, you could be right because they're within the first month of the season. They play the Bucks, the Nets, the Pacers twice, the Raptors, Miami, the
yeah,
Sixers twice in the first month.
yeah.
So you could be right. I'm just so high on Jason Tatum. I think he's going to have a ridiculously good year this year. I think I agree with you. Jaylen Brown's also going to really improve. I think this team just knows how to play together. I think they know how to play defense. And they kind of survived without Tristan Thompson last year. And I honestly don't really think I think Tatum's just going to step it up, take more shots. I think Brown's going to take more shots in Kemba's absence. I think they're going to be really good this year. I really do.
Man, like, I'm super high on them. That's why I have them number 4. But like, you remove a 17-point scorer and a 20-point scorer. That's 37 points. And who's taking, like, you expect them to have 37-point jump? Like,
Aaron
that's it.
Neesmith, man. Aaron
You
Neesmith.
expect Aaron Neesmith to average 30 points?
He's gonna be
Oof.
Tyler Hero light this year for them. Not even light. He's gonna be so good.
Yeah, man. But like, I'm not putting a rookie team as a second seed. Even how good Tyler Hero was, they're still a fifth seed. The Heat, like in regular season, it's going to take those rookies a couple runs, a couple months to
No,
get into the NBA
obviously,
record.
for sure. But I mean, I
And
think
he's their
let's not
starting
let's
shooting guard.
he might be yeah.
Right now, he
Let,
is.
but let's not act like Kemba's missing 4 months. He's missing 2 weeks, most likely 2 to 3 weeks. Now is it going to take him some time to maybe get back into it after missing those couple of weeks? Probably. I just think Jason Tatum is going to be insanely good this year, and I think the first month maybe without these players is going to probably be one of his more memorable stretches of the season, and I think it's really going to elevate our opinion of him around the league.
Man, you say let's not act like Kemba's been out for 4 months, but I really think he was banged up most of that bubble. Like since the Raptor series, I think he's been banged up.
You could be right.
And then there's been rumors of that too. And if that's true, like this guy might just not be there till like the late end of the season. I think they're gonna make a
Yeah,
heavy push late end of the season to get top 4. Like I expect him to be really low to start the season, like 6, 8, 7,
really low.
hovering around there, and then we're on a huge run to get into the top 4. But yeah, I'm just huge on Kemba Walker's injury. Like I think it's gonna be a big one.
Okay, that's fair. See, so you lower the Celtics for injuries, but then you have the Nets at number
Yeah,
2. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, like they don't have any existing injuries right now, but Kyrie gets injured all the time, and Kevin Durant is presumably not going to be able to just come in and play 35 minutes a night, 33 minutes a night right away. It's going to take him some time. He's going to need some games off, I think. And I know they're super deep.
Yeah, that's why they're super
I'm
deep.
not comfortable putting them much higher than 5. I just think there's going to be a lot of rest. And when Kevin Durant does play, how good is he going to be? How good is he going to be defensively? How long? Even though it's been so long since he actually got injured, he's going to need like actual basketball action to get back into it. And
Yeah.
Kyrie, like I said, is not the most durable player in the world. I think they're going to be more of a threat than a true fifth seed come playoff time, but I just don't really see them getting higher than a fifth seed, or like maybe I could be talking to 4, but I don't really see higher than that.
So the Clippers implemented a unique type of load management where they rotated their guys. Paul George, you have a game off. Kevin Durant, you have a game off. And I think that's what they're going to do with the Nets. And then let me just list out their starting lineup: Kyrie Irving, Spencer Dinwiddie, Kevin Durant, Torian Prince, DeAndre Jordan, with a bench of Carlos Levert, Jared Allen,
Joe Harris.
Joe Harris, Kirkos. Like, that's a deep nine-man
It's
team.
really deep. Yeah.
Kevin Durant sits out a game. Carlos Levert come in. If you want Kyrie to sit out a game, Joe Harris come in. And then if you think about a team of Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris, Kevin Durant, Torian Prince, DeAndre Jordan, like that team could beat anyone in the league comfortably.
But we saw that team last year. We saw
With
that
Kevin
team without
Durant?
not with KD, but on the nights
That,
like KD rests, which I think are going to be more frequent than Kyrie resting. We saw that team, and they were decent, but they weren't any higher than a fifth seed.
yeah, but you also have to remember, like, Caris LeVert took a huge jump
That's true. That's
throughout the
true.
season. He's definitely improved as a player. They definitely got more chemistry now as a team too. Like, they know Jordan's going to be the starter. They know Jared Allen's going to come in and play those 20 minutes. It's not a question mark anymore. They know Torian Prince is the full-time 4 now. Like,
New coach. Yeah,
Spencer Dinwiddie also took a huge jump too. Like,
he did.
Spencer
He
Dinwiddie
did.
went from being like a really good player to like borderline all-star. And I think that they're just so deep. And I think with proper rest management and load management, I think they could easily be the second seed because they could just rotate your players, kind of like the Clippers, how they were the
See,
second seed last year. I think it happened again.
I I do think it can be done, but I think I'm pretty high. I'm really high on the Sixers this year.
Yeah.
I just think obviously I think a fully healthy KD, fully healthy Kyrie is better than the Sixers, but
Mhm.
I'm super high on the Sixers this year. I think this is the best roster that they've had for Embiid and Simmons in kind of ever.
Yeah.
I think that with a real coach, finally, they're gonna play a lot harder. They're gonna play a lot more focused. I think there isn't gonna be as much drama within the team. I think they have shooters everywhere. Tobias Harris can finally play the 4. I think it's gonna look really good this year for the Sixers. And we say that every year, and they're
Yeah.
always a 6 seed or whatever. So I
Yeah.
could be wrong, but I think this is the year. I think I'm calling it. This is the year the Sixers are actually top 3 seed.
Yeah. I just have them slipping the 5 because chemistry issues, like a new coach, new dynamic, new players, new rotations. Embiid's Embiid always starts the season slow because he always
He does.
just eats whatever he wants in the off season. So I think he's going to do that again. I don't think that's going to really change in him.
I
I
mean,
think
if he
that's the
hasn't
type
showed
of,
us, yeah,
like, I don't know why you would assume that now. Tobias Harris kind of did suck, so I think it's going to take him a while to get back into Doc Rivers systems. I know he wasn't it before, but where he's getting more shots and getting more movement. How is Matisse Thybulle going to be used? He's obviously a big player for them, but he's never been coached by Doc Rivers. So yeah, and like, is Doc Rivers going to try to use him as a JJ Redick, or like, what is he going to do, right? Because Matisse Thybulle is not someone that's going to come off like a pin down screen. I think that has to be Seth Curry.
yeah,
Seth Curry's lack of defense. How is Ben Simmons going to accommodate for that, right? Like, he went from guarding point guards. Now Seth Curry has to guard the point guard, so Ben Simmons has to guard kind of a bigger wing players. Danny Green is a shooting, like regular season shooting, or is that playoff shooting going to
yeah,
continue?
yeah.
Like, I think there's just so much questions with this team that they'll be a good playoff team. Like, I wouldn't want to risk in the playoffs, but I think there's just going to be so much chemistry issues in the beginning that they're going to have to work out. Like, I don't even know who the starting lineup is. Like, people obviously have penciled in Curry, Green, Simmons, Harris,
Mm-hmm.
and Embiid, but like, if Matisse Thybulle shows he's a decent shooter, he could slide in that shooting guard spot. And then we've talked about injuries, and I don't know how you could
Yeah.
this team. Ben Simmons missed like what the whole bubble,
Yeah.
and then Joel Embiid is Joel Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
Like he always goes down. Now in a shortened season where they only play 72 games, I think I was gracious giving the 5 spot because
Really?
the Raptors I think realistically will finish ahead of them, but I'm pessimistic about the Raptors, and then that's why I gave
Mm-hmm.
the Sixers 5. I think their injuries are even worse, and it's going to be tough for them because if Ben Simmons goes or if Joel Embiid goes down again, you don't have an Al Horford to slide to the 5. You're sliding
Dwight Howard.
Dwight Howard, which is going to be a big downgrade.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
see. I just look at this team and I see Simmons, Embiid, and a bunch of shooters, and I'm like, this is like Lakers last year light. It's just, but with better, like worse stars, but better
Yeah.
role players around the stars. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And I mean, chemistry issues could definitely be a thing. You definitely could be right about that, and you can never predict injuries. But Simmons and Embiid are two of the more injury-prone stars in the league.
Yeah.
I'm just expecting Doc Rivers to come in and be all and not and kind of get rid of those chemistry issues. Maybe I think this is going to be the most focused and most well balanced that this team has been in a long time. And the only bad defender on the team is Seth Curry. Now he kind of plays an unfortunate position because he's going to have to guard point guards.
Yeah.
But he's the only bad defender really on the team. And maybe they will start off slow, but I think if they can stay healthy, which is a huge question mark, if they can stay healthy, develop that chemistry and kind of figure out their rotations, I think this could be one of the best teams in the East, maybe even like second best team in the East. I really do.
Yeah. And the team we haven't talked about is the Heat.
Yeah.
I have them at 3. You have them at 4.
Yeah.
So we both expect them to be top 4 seeds. They had a great run. They're the defending Eastern Conference champions.
Yeah.
Their team doesn't have really any injury-prone players.
Dragic, maybe.
Dragic a little bit, but Kendrick Nunn could obviously step up and play good for them. They're the same team. They're going to play hard.
Yeah.
They have Avery Bradley now, another great
Mhm.
defender. They're going to play hard. They're going to play every possession hard. It's going to be a good team. It can be a hard playoff exit. Nothing really much to say for them.
Yeah, I have them at the 4, but if I were doing my like playoff difficulty rankings, I would probably have them higher.
Higher, yeah.
I probably would have the Bucks lower and I'd have the Heat higher. But yeah, Dragic's health is the only real health question mark on the team. And Kendrick Nunn doesn't suck. Like he was horrible in the bubble.
Good.
He was horrible at points in the regular season, but he doesn't suck. He got COVID, and we don't know what kind of effect that had on him. And maybe I don't know if I want to ask him to be my starting point guard, but I love him as my backup point guard, as my sixth man. Maybe not even my sixth man, my seventh man. I love that. Tyler Hero is gonna have a bigger role. I'm excited to see what he does this year. Does he start?
I think Tyler Hero starts at the shooting guard spot.
You think Robinson comes off the bench?
I think Robinson comes off the bench with Kendrick Nunn.
Yeah, so I think, not really much to say about them. They're going to be a top 4 seed 100%. They're probably going to be a tougher out in the playoffs than they are in the regular season.
Yeah.
Because I think they just play like a slower, more grinded out defense first game, which doesn't lend itself to the regular season as much as it does the playoffs. But yeah, not really much to say about the Heat.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was basically our whole breakdown.
That's the East.
The biggest difference we had was on the Nets, which comes up to health issues, which a lot of teams in the East does. So we expect the East to be really good, but hopefully they're all healthy and have a really good playoffs.
Hopefully. Yeah, definitely. So I think the West is the gap between the East and the West is lower this year.
Yeah,
it's smaller than it was before, but the West is probably still the stronger conference. So
100%.
Let's you start again. Let's do the bottom 3 or bottom 4. Bottom 4. Let's do the bottom 4.
OKC is the worst team in the West. Kings are the second worst. Spurs are my third worst at 13. And this is an interesting 12. I have the Pelicans at 12.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Thunder are the worst team in the West. I think they're worse than the Knicks. I think they're the worst team in the league.
Yeah, same.
The Kings are the second worst team. I have the Timberwolves at 13. And then I have the Grizzlies at 12.
Ooh. Okay.
So let's talk about the Thunder. We've just to name their starting 5 again. It's Shea, Hamidou Diallo, Luguentz Dort, Al Horford at the 5, and Baisley at the 4.
Yeah.
The worst roster on paper in the league. Shea's awesome. Everyone loves Shea. He's going to have a breakout year this year. I think a question is going to be, though, can he be – we all know he's a scorer, but can he be the primary point guard? Can he be a playmaker? Because we saw him play off Chris Paul last year, play with Dennis Schroeder. Can he be a point guard? I want to see that. But other than that, the tank is in full effect. They're going for maybe Cade Cunningham with the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
That's really all there is to say about this team. They have a million picks, and their roster is terrible, and they're going to be last place in the league probably.
And that's their goal, to be last place in the league. So they're doing it right. Good rebuild.
Yeah.
Like nothing else we could really say about that. Get picks, have Shea.
Yep.
Get some guys next draft.
That's
Good
it.
rebuild. Yeah.
That's it. All right, so we both have the Kings at 14. And we all love De'Aaron Fox, obviously. He's awesome. But I don't really love anything else on that roster. They're pretty much the same team, but they lost Bogdanovich and got Hassan Whiteside. Bagley is actually starting the year not injured, but he has COVID. So I don't know how much time he's going to miss.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the biggest question with this team is how many months until Luke Walton gets fired?
Yeah, Luke Walton is by far the worst coach in the league, and he will make this team the second worst team in the West.
Mm-hmm.
He's horrible as a coach. I think it doesn't matter what team you have. I think even if you give him like the Nuggets, he would kind of like he's so bad. Like he had
LeBron James.
Yeah, and he got fired for a reason.
Yeah.
Like he's horrible. He's a horrible coach. He should be back in an assistant coaching role, and I think that'll be good for him. And until that happens, we don't even need to talk about the roster because that's how bad Luke Walton is.
Yeah, and it's just I don't even know what to expect from Bagley. Like I've always liked Bagley ever since he got drafted, but he's never really played, and I think he could be a really nice player beside De'Aaron Fox, but he might not be. We have not seen him play enough, so I really hope he actually is able to stay healthy. He's not these injuries that he gets. They're not catastrophic. They're just fluke injuries, little tweaks here and there. They just always happen to him.
Yeah.
So I just hope he's able to avoid that this year, and we're actually able to really evaluate him. It kind of sucks for them because they have no idea how good he is, and they're gonna have to pay him soon. They're gonna have to decide whether or not they want to pay him.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna be a really awkward situation, probably.
Yeah, and Bagley's whole career, it's like Greg Oden. Oden is always talked about Kevin Durant right after him. Bagley's always going to be talked about Luka Doncic right after him. Kind of sucks. Even if he becomes an average NBA player, a good starter, it's still going to be a bad thing for the Kings franchise because he's not going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
It just sucks for them. Yeah. Losing the face of the league.
Yeah.
It's never a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, so this is where it gets kind of weird. I think we probably have the same 10 to 15. So do you want to just do?
Yeah, so my 10 is Grizzlies and my 11 is Timberwolves.
Okay, so I have the Pelicans at 10 and the Spurs at 11. Okay, so who do you want to talk?
Let's talk
you have
about
the Pelicans
Spurs.
at 13, or
you have the Spurs. I have Spurs at 13.
All right, let's do Spurs.
Yeah, okay. Why are you so high on the team that has DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge as their best players in 2020?
Because they have Greg Popovich.
Okay.
Although there are a ton of roster questions, like is DeMar starting at the 4? Is he starting at the 3? Is he starting at the 2? Is Aldridge starting at the 5 or the 4? Is Pirtle starting? Derek White is going to miss the opener with an injury. But for me, a healthy DeMar and Aldridge are both 20 to 22 point scorers in the NBA every night. And I think they're good enough, and you know what you're getting from them with Greg Popovich. Assuming they don't blow it up, I think they're good enough to be the 11th seed in the West. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, you might be right. It's just I don't want them to be close to that playing spot because
I don't want them to be there either. They're like I'm sick of the Spurs at this point. I want them to blow it up. But if they do keep it together, I think Popovich, like I said, is a good enough coach, and those players are good enough that they're going to be there.
Yeah, I honestly do agree with you. I do probably think they could make the 11th spot. I just want to see those young teams perform better.
Same. No, me too.
Then you could obviously be like, oh man, look at Zion, he actually played well, or look at Ja, he played well.
Yeah.
Look at Cat, they played like Cat and D'Lo, they had a good duo. The Spurs, okay, they played well. Greg Popovich, you're the best coach of all time. Like it's not really gonna do anything because it's not like nothing's gonna happen, nothing's gonna change, and
they're not gonna get a high pick, and it's just gonna be the exact same thing.
Yeah,
next year.
I'd rather them be at 13.
Yeah.
somehow luck into Cade Cunningham
Yeah.
and Cade Cunningham playing in the Spurs system rather than
Yeah.
them someone who's not
No.
really in
Yeah.
hype.
We're on the same page with them. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Okay, so you had who did you had
at
the
Pelicans at 12.
Pelicans. Okay, so let's talk Pelicans.
Yeah, the reason I have him so low compared to you is because I just don't think Zion's going to play a full season.
Hmm.
I think Zion's going to have Joel Embiid type start to his career where he's injured the first two type of seasons and then he has good health. And I don't think the spacing of this team is that good. A
Spacing's
lineup of
terrible.
Eric Bledsoe, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Zion, and Steven Adams. You just stack the paint. It's going to be tough for Zion and Brandon Ingram to score. And I think they're not that great defensively. I know Stan Van Gundy is a defensive coach, but these are young guys that are going to be learning and growing. And I think the
Yeah.
spacing is just going to cost them so much games that they're going to fall to their 12.
The spacing is really bad, but I think I'm just being a little optimistic because Lonzo Ball had a good shooting year shooting the ball last
Yeah,
year. Bledsoe was a good regular season shooter, and Zion was better than we thought. So
yeah,
I guess I'm just hoping that they continue that trajectory, and the only brick on the team is Steven Adams. And Pat, other than that, like I love they have a really nice mix of young players and veterans. They have like I individually, you can't complain about their players individually.
yeah,
It's just together with the spacing, it's definitely a question mark. I'm just kind of hoping that spacing is a little bit better with a veteran coach like Van Gundy. I just think expectations are really high for this team. Like I think a lot of people have them as a playoff team. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the playoffs. They're going to be at 10, in my opinion, and it's going to be primarily because of the spacing and Zion's health. But I do think they are going to have enough to be ahead of the Spurs and the Grizzlies and the Wolves for me.
yeah. So I just really expect the Grizzlies to continue on from the success of last season.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of a healthy team besides Jaren Jackson, but they
Yeah,
have a Jaren Jackson replacement already in Brandon Clark, kind of.
yeah,
And I think the Timberwolves, we'll talk about them soon. I think they're also improved a lot this offseason or midway through last season. Whereas the Pelicans is just so heavily dependent on one player. And then they lost their best player too, right? Like both those teams that we talked about have just improved.
mm-hmm.
Where the Pelicans have lost their best player, their spacing has gotten worse. Like they haven't really made strands to improve. And I think they don't really want to make the playoffs. Obviously, they wouldn't mind making the playoffs. I think they want to
Yeah.
be competitive. But the way they constructed their roster doesn't seem like a team that's pushing for the playoffs because they would have went and got a Miles Turner if they wanted to, right? I think this is just a team that's wants to let their young guys improve, and I think that's the reason why they'll end up with a 12.
But so you want your young guys to improve, then just you go out and get Steven Adams, who's a nice
Yeah,
player, but probably could not think of a worse fit at center for this team. It doesn't really make a ton of sense. But I mean, a healthy Zion, even with that spacing, Brandon Ingram is probably, if they're both healthy, good enough to get you to a 10 seed. But obviously, you can't just assume health, and Zion has never showed us that he's going to be healthy. So here I am assuming that he's just going to play the whole year, and he's probably
yeah.
not. So okay. So for the Wolves, for me, it's defense. I don't like stop me when you hear an above average defender. Rubio, Russell, Edwards.
Rubio. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You don't think Rubio's an average defender?
He might be average, but okay. So Rubio, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Juancho Hernan Gomez, Carl Anthony Towns, Beasley. Who do you like that on that team defensively? I don't like one player. Rubio, maybe.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Is Rubio going to start at point guard for them?
I just think they're so good offensively. Like a
Yeah,
D'Angelo Russell, Rubio, Cat, Anthony Edwards, with the spacing of Honcho. Like
yeah.
that's a really good offensive team. Like that's like them and the Wizards when they play, it's gonna be a
Mm-hmm.
fun game. It's gonna be 160 to 170.
Yeah.
And Cat is he's Mr. Iron Man. Besides last season, he
Oh yeah,
barely missed games.
100%.
D'Angelo Russell, now he has Ricky Rubio to help guard the point guards and take some pressure off him. He's gonna be healthier too. And Anthony Edwards, this guy, like he's 6'5", 220, like he's the same height as Zion Williamson. He should be able to play the small forward spot. So like
Yeah.
he should be able to go too. And then they have a decent bench with Beasley. Honcho's gonna probably start at the four, but they have
Mm.
Okogie, Culver. Like they should be competitive. and maybe try to get that playing spot. I don't think they will. I think they'll get 11.
Yeah.
But I think I'm just so high on Cat and D'Lo as a duo. Like I think they're so good as a duo on the offensive end
Mm-hmm.
that I think they could just at least get close to the play-in. I don't think they're gonna get it, but I think they'll be close.
See, I have a couple of questions. I think I'm not expecting a ton from Edwards this year. Like
Yeah,
not because of his fault, any fault of his own. I just think Cat and D'Angelo Russell are going to be getting almost all the shots, almost all the opportunities, and Edwards is going to be asked to play off the ball a lot, spot up a little bit more, which was he played super on ball in college. It was not his strong suit playing off the ball. He can shoot, and I think he's going to be asked to do that, but I'm not 100% sold on that. And then Juancho Hernangomez is only 214 pounds and shot
yeah.
34% from three last year, so I'm not sold on him at the four. I would honestly, because they have good spacing, they do. I would consider playing Rondae Hollis Jefferson at the four. I really would.
No, I'm not starting Rondé, but he'll definitely get some minutes at the
He would
four.
be far and away the best defender on that team. He's one of the best defenders in the league. If Rondae had a
Yeah,
3-point shot, he'd be an All NBA player.
he's definitely an all defensive type player if he had enough minutes. It's
Yeah,
just he never gets enough minutes to be in the consideration for all defensive teams.
and
But
him and Cat have a nice little. I don't know if they have a beef, but he started at the five when the Raptors played the
yeah,
Wolves last year, and he shut down Cat.
yeah,
So I think that was as good an interview, a good audition as any for this team, and I would consider starting him at the four, especially when I have all those shooters. You have one of the best shooting big men of all time, really, in Cat, and I
yeah,
think you can afford to play a guy like Rondé because he can actually give you some stuff other than shooting offensively,
yeah,
and I think that'd be pretty cool. I think he deserved more than a non-guaranteed contract, but maybe
yeah,
that's just me.
yeah. If Rondé is able to actually start, we could be talking about a play-in team.
Yeah,
I just don't think, I just don't think they're gonna be ballsy enough to do it.
yeah,
I wish they do, because him and Rubio together would actually help Cat so much.
it would.
Because like now you take out that power forward spot, not take it out, but you at least really negate the ability of one wing. Anthony Edwards is a decent defender, like athletically wise. Like he has all the athletic
Yes,
components to
yeah,
be
yeah.
a good defender. Rubio's a decent point guard defender. And now we can talk about an average defense. And with an average defense, this could be like an 8 seed.
Yeah,
It's just it's not going to be an average
for sure.
defense, and
Yeah,
that's why they're going to be
it's gonna
11.
be it's gonna be horrible. It's gonna be between them and the Wizards as the one of
Maybe
two
Knicks.
and the Knicks.
Yeah,
Like OKC is terrible, but I think they're more terrible offensively than defensively.
yeah. Al
Uh,
Horford and
yeah,
Shea would be a decent job.
yeah. Okay, so the one we didn't talk about yet was the Grizzlies. For the Grizzlies, I'm just so down on them. Uh, you said you're not too worried about their injuries, but Jaren Jackson, there's no timetable for his meniscus injury, and when he does come back, who knows how long it's going to take him to get acclimated and get back. Justice Winslow is going to miss the opener. He has a hip injury since July, so Brandon Clark is going to be asked to play a huge role, and I'm expecting Ja to take a big leap. I think this is going to be an awesome year for him. I think it's going to be a hugely important year for the individual players on that team, but I just don't see the team taking the next step. I think they're going to take a step back. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the play in. And I think that is going to happen next year because they're still going to benefit from the progress that these players, that their young players make this year.
Yeah, I just think John Morant's too good to not make the play in. Like he still has a decent team around him. Like he still has Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, Brandon Clark, Jonas Valanciunas, Desmond Bain, someone they drafted, really good
Mm-hmm.
shooter. They still have Grayson Allen. They have like a decent bench. And then like this team, like they still have their guys. Like they're still gonna be a good defense. Like they'll be good enough to like shut down teams. Not really shut them down, but slow them down. And then they're good enough offensively with John Morant just playmaking and everyone else shooting and doing the role. So yeah, I think they're good enough to make the play in. I just don't think they're gonna make any noise in the play in.
Are they good enough offensively though? Because obviously we love Ja and Dylan Brooks is a good shooter, and Jay Valanciunas can give you
Valanciunas,
he can give you
16,
some
17.
buckets.
Yeah.
But is there other than Ja? Is there a reliable way for them to score in the
I,
half
I think
court? I
I
mean,
think there is, man. I think you're underestimating Jonas
I
Valanciunas, man.
I might be. I might be.
He was a consistent scorer and he was a consistent 15 and 10 guy.
He's actually
Like
been shooting the three a lot
Yeah,
better recently. So I could be wrong, and maybe Jaw's just going to take such a step up that
yeah,
I am wrong, and that he's actually able to keep them afloat until Jaren Jackson comes back, and then they
yeah,
actually do take off from there. I hope so, because that's what I wanted to see from them this year. I just think it's really unfortunate that the
yeah,
injuries that they have, but we'll see. Okay, so those were our bottom five, yeah,
yeah,
or our 10 to 15.
yeah.
Okay, so let's do 9, 8,
8-7.
7. Okay, let's do that. You go
We,
ahead.
we kind of have three completely different teams here, which is the funny part.
Yeah.
At 9, I have the Suns. At 8, I have the Rockets. And at 7, I have the Mavs.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
I have the Suns at 9 as well.
yeah.
I have the Golden State Warriors at 8, and then I have the Rockets at 7.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so let's talk
The
Suns.
Suns. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the best team that Devin Booker's ever had around him by far. I
Hmm.
think maybe not if they're a 9. If they're an 8 seed, I think he's going to be an All NBA player.
Yeah,
And healthy Chris Paul just equals wins. It's just true. You have healthy Chris Paul, you're going to win games. I think that there's going to be a big DeAndre Ayton year, especially playing with a real point guard like Chris Paul and his own development. Crowder's a nice veteran. Cam Johnson had a breakout in the bubble. He's a player that we both love, and even though he's probably not going to be starting, he's going to be playing
yeah,
a ton of minutes. Cam Payne had another bubble breakout. If he's
yeah.
real, that's a nice bench. Etwan Moore is coming off the bench too.
Hmm.
I They got Saric off the bench. They drafted Jalen Smith. I love everything on this team. I just don't think they're going to have quite enough to make the playoffs, just because of the strength ahead of them. Nothing, not because of any shortcomings on their roster.
Yeah, once James Harden gets traded, I think they will get that 8 spot.
Okay.
But until James Harden gets traded, I can't put him over them. And the reason for that is I am very harsh on 34 plus point guards.
Yeah.
Like Kyle Lowry, like I put the Raptors all the way to 6. Like I'm gonna give the Suns the same punishment. If you have a point guard that's that old, like they're just gonna get injured. Like the point guard spot is so hard. It's so important too in today's NBA. Like if your guard gets injured, like the team's gonna really struggle. And I think he's gonna get injured. I think they're gonna struggle. And I still think they're gonna get 9. I think that's how good they are.
Yeah.
But if Chris Paul is healthy the whole season, they could finish anywhere up to like 5.
They
Like
could.
that's how good this team
They
is.
could. Yeah.
It's just Chris Paul's health. 34 plus. I'm gonna punish them for that. Punish him for his age.
Yeah. And he's shown us 1 year in the last however many years of being healthy. It's not fair to just assume that he's going to
He's
have another fully
yeah,
healthy year. But I mean, here's hoping. Yeah, because this team could definitely, this could be a really, really, really good team and a really good playoff team if they actually do get in there and they're healthy. So we'll see. So okay, so you had we'll talk Warriors in a bit, but you had the Rockets at
8.
8, and I had them at 7. Okay, and you had the Mavs at 8, yeah.
No, I had the Mavs at 7.
Oh, you had the Mavs. Okay, so you had the Mavs at 7. Okay, so you
Yeah,
had the.
Rockets at
We
8.
both have Rockets, Mavs. Uh, we both have the Mavs one ahead of the Rockets. I just have it one step higher than you.
Oh, you have them at
So
6.
I do, yeah.
I have the
So
Warriors at 6.
okay, so let's just talk those three teams.
Yeah, let's start with the Rockets.
Okay,
Yeah, the Rockets have everything going against them. They have two guys coming off Achilles injuries. They have so much chemistry issues. Their best player doesn't want to talk to their coach. He just says hello. That's all he said. In 3 days of training camp, he still hasn't reported. He's adamantly asking for a trade. It's a horrible, toxic environment. But he's one of the best players of all time, and he scores 35 points a game, and he is not making them miss the playoffs. Like that's how good he is.
yeah,
Doesn't really matter who's around them. Like even if John Wall is the worst NBA player, like they're still making the 8 seed. And I think John Wall's going to be horrible. If he is a 16-8 guy, which people are projecting, I think they could finish much higher. I think not DeMar DeRozan, I think DeMarcus Cousins is not an NBA player anymore.
yep,
But if he is an NBA player, they could definitely finish in the top 4. I'm really not high on guys coming off Achilles injuries unless they're named Kevin Durant.
yeah.
So yeah, that's why I'm so low. But if those guys are healthy, they could definitely be top 5, top 4 even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, putting aside the chemistry issues for a second, even just roster questions, like you said, Wall and Cousins are behind behind Kevin Durant and Victor Oladipo are the two biggest injury question marks in the league, probably.
Yeah.
And I'm not really expecting to get much from either of them, especially Cousins. So
Yeah.
it's going to be the Harden show. It's going to be Harden with guys around him, and if they're hitting shots, they're going to win a lot of games, and if they're not going to win too many games. For me,
Mhm.
for the Mavs and Rockets are, I feel kind of similarly about them. I think at this point, Luka is like not quite Harden, but
Yeah.
they're pretty close, and it just comes down to which supporting cast you like better. And Porzingis is missing some time.
Yeah.
They're saying January 1st is when they want him back. If that happens, that's like a week into the season, then
Yeah.
that's awesome. Mavs are going to be probably a lot higher,
Hmm.
but he's never been a durable player either. I'm not going to just assume that he's going to be 100% the whole year. And so for me, I just think having Tim Hardaway Jr. With the acquisition of Josh
Josh
Richardson,
Richardson.
I like the team around Luka, and if Porzingis can play 60 games, maybe if that might be a little optimistic. If you can play 60 really good Porzingis games, I think this is a lock to be higher than the Rockets, and in my opinion, higher than the Warriors.
Yeah, the reason I have them at 7 is because they're basically just the Rockets without chemistry issues.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
that's fair.
And yeah, I have them at 7 because I think KP's going to miss a lot of time. If KP doesn't miss time, they could easily be a top 4 seed.
Yeah,
But yeah, this is a Luka show, and this is his MVP outing. Hopefully,
yeah,
KP comes
yeah.
back and they could get the top 4 seed, and Luka could get that MVP. But I don't think he's going to be able to come back in time to really make up
Mm-hmm.
that losses that they're going to accumulate at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, he's had so many knee injuries in his career.
Yes,
This is
and he's
another one.
7'3".
He's 7'3". They're
Yeah,
saying January 1st, but who knows?
yeah,
Yeah, it all depends on how many games he plays. But even if he doesn't play a ton of games, I still like their supporting cast better than James Harden's supporting cast. So
yeah,
that's why I have them over the Rockets. Okay,
yeah.
so for the Warriors, I was debating whether or not to have them at the 9 seed versus the 8 seed, and I was just like, I can't put a Steph team not in the
Yeah,
playoffs. Steph Curry with players who don't suck is a playoff team,
yeah.
and he's not playing with players who suck. But I can't really say much more about his team. I think they don't suck, but I don't really think they're that good, other than him.
Man, Kelly Oubre averaged 17 uh, before his injury. Uh, Andrew Wiggins is a 20-point scorer his whole life. He averaged 19, I think, last season or so, around there. Draymond Green, he's gonna not load manage anymore because they're trying to make the playoffs. He's a 7-7-7 type guy. It's pretty good, and he's really good defensively. James Wiseman, you said could be a 14 and 8, 14 and
Yeah,
10 guy
I think he
maybe.
can. I think he can.
So now you have what is that? 1, 2, 3 15-point scorers around Draymond and Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
And Steph Curry could be easily a 30-point scorer. And now you have a 30-point scorer and 3 consistent 15-point scorers. Like their offense is just going to be so fluid and so well, especially with a Steve Kerr coach team. They're one of the best coaches in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think they're going to be so good. And I think the only reason I have them as low as 6 is because I think Curry is going to be in and out of games a couple of times here and there. But I think they're just so good. Like they're so underrated in my opinion because they also have a decent bench too. They have
They do have a
Watermaker,
decent bench.
they have Nico Mannion, they have David Damian Lee,
Damian
they
Lee,
have
Poole,
Poole, they have Eric Pascal, they have Kevin Looney, they have Kent Bazemore. Like this is a
Brad
decent bench.
Wanamaker.
Yeah, Brad Wanamaker. They have a really good bench. So when I think you have a solid team like this around a Steph Curry, I think you're gonna win games because he's just that good of a player.
See, I think it's more. I'm not fully sold on Draymond. I think Draymond, he's not even that old, but he's just
Yeah,
been so banged up. Maybe he just was load managing and maybe he wasn't even trying like 80% last year. And
yeah,
maybe he's going to come out and be like close to the Draymond of old. I'm not fully sold on that. Wiseman, although I think he's going to be, I think he could win Rookie of the Year this year. It is going to take him some time to get there, I think. And Steph, like you said, is one of the more injury prone point guards in the league. We've given Chris Paul and Kyle Lowry a hard time for saying
yeah.
that they're going to miss time. I think Steph, even though he's younger, is more likely to miss more time than them. And without Steph, I don't like this team at all. Even though they have some nice players, I just don't know how nice they're going to be able to do anything without Steph.
Yeah, but you can say that about everyone if we like get big injuries, like if James
That's true.
Harden gets injured, right? And I want to give Steph Curry a pass because like his last injury was such a freak injury. Like it's not like it
Hmm.
was his ankles or something. Because if it was his ankles, I would have him lower too.
Yeah.
It was a broken hand.
Hand. Yeah.
Like it was such a freak injury. Like it could happen to anyone. So
Yeah.
like I'm gonna give Steph the benefit of the doubt and think a 6 seed is like kind of lowballing them. I think an
Yeah.
8 seed is kind of disrespectful because I think they have so much options. I think Andrew
Yeah.
Wiggins is being disrespected. Kelly Oubre is being disrespected. They paid the tax for a reason, man. They could definitely make some noise.
See, this could be. I could be doing some recency bias here because I've lately James Harden and Luka Doncic have shown to be more effective regular season like
Players.
players than Steph Curry because he didn't play last year at all, and before that he was playing with Kevin
Kevin
Durant.
Durant.
So maybe Steph Curry actually is going to come in and just completely dominate the game every single night and be good enough to get them to a succeed. I really hope so. Maybe I'm just forgetting how good he is, even though I think he's could he's not going to be an MVP candidate this year, but I mean he's going to be pretty close to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so let's move
One to
on to
five.
the top five. Yeah, let's just do the top five. Okay, so what are your top five?
I have the Lakers at one,
Mm-hmm.
Clippers at two, Nuggets at three, Trailblazers at four, and Utah Jazz at five.
Okay, I have the exact same, except I have the Blazers at five and the Jazz at four. So let's
Okay.
just talk Blazers versus Jazz.
Yeah. So we'll do Blazers first.
Yeah.
So this is probably one of my favorite teams. Dame, CJ, uh, they're still there. Nurkic is back, fully healthy now. They added a Robert Covington to this team. They added a DJJ, Derek Jones Jr. to this team. Rodney Hood is back from his injury. Melo signed and is willing to come off the bench. Gary Trent Jr. improved humongously in the bubble.
He did.
Zach Collins is healthy now. They brought back another bench scorer in Ennis Cantor. They took a risk on Harry Giles. And then they also have a couple of their own young guys like Anthony Simmons and Nazir Little. And I just
Mm-hmm.
named how many guys? Like 12?
A lot of guys.
This is such a deep team, man. Like, that's why I think they're going to do so well. Like, they basically surrounded Dame, CJ, and Nurkic with defenders, shooters, and Melo. That's basically how they surrounded the team.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to work. I think that's a recipe for success. We've seen when they had shooters before this last season, they were
Mm-hmm.
in the Western Conference Finals and
Yeah.
they were a third seed. So I think that's going to happen again. And I think they're going to be a fourth seed. And I think they're going to have a lot of playoff success.
And I'm super high on this team too. I think it's really, really, really close with the Jazz. Like I think this could be off by one win, maybe
Yeah.
the difference between these two teams. And so you listed out some players. So I'm just going to compare the two rotations real quick. So you got Dame CJ, you got Derek Jones Jr., you got Covington, Nurkic, Simmons, Trent, Rodney Hood, just coming off an injury. You got Mel, you got Cantor, you got Zach Collins on the Blazers. That's awesome. But then on the Jazz, you got Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert, Bogdanovich is coming back, which is huge.
Yeah.
Royce O'Neal, Joe Ingles, Clarkson, and Derek Favors, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm just going to lead towards the Jazz a little bit slightly because I think they've been playing together. This group has been playing together for a while now, and they've been through it, and they are going to have good team chemistry. It seems like the Gobert Mitchell chemistry is long gone. I
Yeah.
think Mitchell is going to level up this year. I think he's going to have by far his best season ever. I think Gobert's effect on winning, at least in the regular season, is underrated. I think he
Yeah.
is a top 3 defensive player of the year candidate every year for a reason.
Yeah.
And Bogdanovich is back, which is huge. He was out in the bubble, and they probably would have won that playoff series. And the Clippers may not have been upset by the Nuggets. We might have been talking about Clippers Lakers Western Conference Finals if
Yeah.
Bogdanovich hadn't gotten hurt. So for me, it's really close. I just lean towards Jazz mainly because of team chemistry, and I think Mitchell's going to level up.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, they're such close teams. Like you
Yeah,
said, they're going to be separated by one game. So I just gave it to
yeah.
the better player.
Dame's going to be
Like,
an MVP caliber
yeah.
player this year.
Yeah. So I just gave the Dame over Donovan
Yeah,
Mitchell. I was like,
yeah,
this is really close. Which player is better? Give
yeah,
it to Dame.
yeah. It's going
That's
to be
basically what I
super.
did.
Exactly. All right,
Yeah.
let's talk Nuggets. We both have them at the 3 seed.
Yeah, so you got Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Will Barton, Michael Porter Jr. starting at the four, hopefully, and you got Jokic. Then you got a bench of Jermichael Green, Paul Millsap, Monte Morris, Bol. Uh, this is a solid bench. That's a nine-man rotation I just named. It's a solid rotation. They're good in essentially everything. They're good at shooting. They're good at defense. They're good at everything. Like they have a really young prospects too in RJ Hampton, which I want to
RJ
see
Hampton.
come in and shoot. And they're always a third seed. It kind of seems like I can easily see them getting the second seed
So can I.
or even the first seed in the regular season because I think those Lakers teams and
Yeah,
Clippers teams are going to rest. Yeah, like I could easily see them getting the first seed. I just think they're the third best team in the West, which is why I gave them number three. But I could easily see them getting the best regular season team.
completely agree.
Yeah,
There are no doubts about Jokic at this point. I mean, say
yeah,
what you want about his defense. Jokic is an MVP caliber player. Murray's going to level up this year. He could be an All NBA. He's going to be an All Star lock. He could be an All NBA player.
yeah,
The injured players that they were missing in the bubble are back, which is huge. MPJ is an awesome offensive player. The thing that's going to their offense is not going to suffer from last year. If anything, it's going to be better. But the question is defense. Losing Grant, is MPJ going to be able to come in and he's not going to be Grant defensively, but can be anywhere near Grant because he was an unplayable defensive player in the bubble and the
yeah,
whole season. That's the question for me. Is that going to matter too much in the regular season when teams like the Clippers and Lakers are resting? Probably not. They could
yeah,
be as high as a 2 seed or possibly even a 1 seed. But like you said, they're the third best team in the West. And for me, that's because of defense. I think they honestly could be the best offensive team in the West. They could be the best offensive team in the league. Like
yeah.
they're that good. It's just to me defensively, there are too many question marks. That's more of an issue come playoff time, I think.
Yeah, I think they're going to be the best regular season team, probably. It's just they're the third best team in the West.
Yeah.
Like I can't see them beating the Lakers or the Clippers in a playoff series. I know they did it last year, but I can't see it happening again.
Yeah.
And Michael Porter Jr., it's time to make the jump. You know what I
He
mean?
has
Like
to.
it's this
Yeah.
time. And if he does make a jump to even a league average defender, we're talking about like a superstar.
We are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. Do you think this team is going to make moves at all?
Personally, I don't see it. I see them. They're going to be doing so much
Yeah.
winning
I
that they're
agree.
not going to want
Yeah.
to upset the chemistry.
Yeah. I
And they
agree.
just had such a good postseason success. And they had a good postseason the one before this too, which I think people underestimate.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're just going to keep the team
Yeah. And
as
Jamal
is.
Murray was your favorite for most improved.
Yeah.
I really hope we see if we can see him play at the bubble playoff level for
Yeah.
even most of the season. That's going to be insane. I really, really hope that happens.
Yeah. As a Canadian, we wish that happens.
Yeah,
He'll be an all NBA lock if he
he
plays
will.
like that.
He will.
So yeah, it'll be interesting because if you have
Yeah,
two all NBA players, because we both expect Jokic to make all NBA first team.
yeah,
So if you have two all NBA players, like you could definitely be like we seen the championships. They just had two all NBA
yeah,
level players.
hmm
They had AD and LeBron, and this could be just like that.
yeah. Exactly. All right. So we talked about the Clippers a little bit. Uh, I think they're in a little bit different of a situation last year. I think Kawhi kind of has something to prove. I don't know if that's going to matter. I don't know if he's going to load manage less. I don't know if that even crosses his mind because he's a robot.
Yeah,
But I like Ibaka better than Harrell. I think he fits better. He can actually play in the starting lineup. I don't know if he's going to be able to guard Anthony Davis. I don't know if anyone can, but I do like him better. I think Lou Williams, like we've said, is going to take a little bit of a step back this year. But mainly it comes down to the Clippers didn't get worse. It's just that the Lakers got so much better. I don't feel nearly as good comparing the Clippers to the Lakers this year.
yeah, and I think the player you didn't mention is Paul George. He
Yeah.
signed an
Oh, sorry, my
extension.
bad. Yeah. Paul
He
George
signed an
just signed an
extension.
extension, a 5-year, $226 million extension. Kind of came out of nowhere. He was supposed to be up there, the big three free agents this coming off season, and seems like he wasn't lying when he said he wants to be a Clipper for life.
Yeah, and I think he's not going to load manage this year because he's healthy. And I think that alone is just going to get them that second seed
That's a
because
good point. Yeah.
a healthy Paul George with this cast and Kawhi playing sporadically, I think that's a second seed.
Yeah. Probably, especially with the Lakers not being at full strength for the entire season, they're going to be load
Yeah,
managing too. Uh, that's really all there is to say about the Clippers. How do you feel about them come playoff time stacked up against the Lakers?
I need them to get a point guard. I hope
Yeah,
Ricky Rubio becomes available
yeah,
come come trade deadline because I would really want to give up Patrick Beverly and Lou Williams to get a Ricky Rubio. It's
I would do
just,
that.
is he going to be available? That's the question.
Yeah, that's the question. For the
Yeah.
Lakers, there's not a ton to say about them. They're overwhelming championship favorites this year. We've gone over the trades, their trades and moves a million times. That there's literally nothing to say except LeBron and AD, please stay healthy, and if they do, they're going to win a championship.
Yeah, this is LeBron's chance to tie Kobe, tie Magic, with 5 championships. The roster is going to probably be Dennis Schroeder, KCP, LeBron, AD, Marcus All, with a bench of Alex Caruso, Wesley Matthews, Kyle Kuzma, Markeith Morris, my bad,
Yeah,
and
Montrez.
Montrez. Yeah,
Yeah,
like I just forgot they had the 6th man of the year. Like that's
yeah,
how stacked they are. So yeah, this team is crazy stacked, and they're just gonna win the championship. Like there's nothing else to say about
it's
them.
gonna happen. They're
Yeah.
unless the Bucks get, I don't know who the Bucks get, but if the Bucks got a really really good point guard, like if the Bucks had gotten Chris Paul, I would have thought
Oh,
Bucks. I would
yeah,
have thought Bucks Lakers was really close, but less than that, I think the Lakers are favorites against any team, and I
yeah,
don't think it's particularly close, really.
yeah. It's gonna be interesting this year. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting this year with LeBron and how much he plays because he is 35, and we usually
Yeah,
hated on a lot of 35-year-old
35
players.
year old point guards. Yeah,
Yeah, but LeBron is 6'9", so we give him the pass.
LeBron's a 22-year-old point guard, but he's
Yeah,
actually 35.
yeah. He's gonna play into his 40s, so that's gonna be
Yeah,
interesting to see.
yeah.
And LeBron's the type of guy that he might not even load manage this year
He might not load manage. He honestly might not.
because
LeBron could win MVP. We say Dame's gonna be the MVP. We say Luka. It honestly might be LeBron.
I'm just saying if LeBron wins one more MVP, then he gets a Finals MVP and a championship, and then he also played all 72 games and closes the gap to
Yeah,
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
yeah,
Hey, man, he's coming for Michael
yeah.
Jordan. He's inching.
And
He's
the
inching.
and winning one of the more what's going to be one of the more memorable championships in history in the bubble,
Yeah,
in quarantine, in COVID. If that happens, his resume is gonna look a lot better. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The season hasn't even started yet. It is
yeah,
starting on the 22nd, which is a week away.
yeah,
We usually record on Tuesdays, but we're gonna wait an extra day and record after the games that have actually happened, so we can talk about them.
yeah.
So look out for that next Wednesday. But until then, thank you guys for listening, and make sure to come back next Wednesday when we actually break down real NBA basketball games. Can't wait.